everyone. Welcome again to our second hashtag collections battle. My name is Chandra, and I'm your moderator slash MC slash fun fact giver this afternoon for everybody on the East Coast and morning for all of us in the Pacific. So I guess, let's start off by how is everybody today? Are we kind of ready for an excited, fact-filled 30 minutes?
We are.
Yes. Okay. Love it. Let's go. So I like to guarantee kind of like one thing when we do this, and I will guarantee that everybody here will leave us today having learned at least one thing. And if you don't learn at least one thing, I mean, well, nothing's actually going to happen, but I will be very impressed, and you will have kind of like moved up on my tier as of really, really smart people. So today we take our battle to the northeastern part of the United States, the Museum of Comparative Zoology at Harvard University in Cambridge versus the Academy of Natural Science located in Philly. So we get to take a look at the inside of these mollusk or invertebrate collections of these museums while also learning some kind of fun animal facts and research at the same time. And so for those of you who don't know, mollusks are the second largest phylum of invertebrates, and they're second only to the incredibly large phylum of insects. So it contains things like snails, slugs, oysters, octopus, and it's also incredibly diverse and interesting as well. So here's how this game kind of works. So our game is modeled after the Twitter event, the hashtag curator battle. So this was started by the Yorkshire Museum in the UK. And it's kind of a fun way to just kind of keep art collections alive on social media with a weekly competition during COVID times, because as we all know, COVID times call for COVID measures. So for example, my favorite week happened to be the week that they searched for the best butts within their collections. As you can see, there were plenty of sort of interesting submissions, and it was really a fun way for museums to interact with the public and sort of share these fun specimens so when nobody could physically go into the museums. And so today I'm going to have our two collections do exactly that. I will give them a theme and they will go off into their respective collections to go find whatever it is they think will help beat their competitor. And so while they're off finding their items, I'll be talking through some interesting, fun flora and fauna to go with that particular theme as well. And once they're back, they'll show us their objects and explain why they chose them, why they're cool, why they fit into this theme, and why they think it's better than the other competitors. And keep in mind, I do not know what they have chosen, and they also do not know what each other has chosen as well. Okay, all sounds good. So let's go ahead and meet our contestants. So standing firm on the right side of the screen, all the way over there, is going to be Gary Rosenberg. So he did his undergrad at Princeton and went to grad school at Harvard University, and he has been at the museum ever since as the curator of mollusks. And in the opposite end of the ring, all the way over here to my left, is Adam. So he grew up in Connecticut, where he did his undergrad. He has his master's from San Francisco State University, and he has been working at MCZ since 1997. So he is the collection manager for invertebrate zoology and malacology. And today we're going to have them go head to head and kind of see which malacology collection is the better or the best. And so let's go ahead and get started. So this month is the month of love, if we will. So our categories this month were modeled after relationships and kind of courting. So for this first category, I've asked the collections to go ahead and find species in their collection that either have a cool or interesting mating display or strategy. So you guys can go ahead and find your objects, and I'm going to talk about some fun animals in the process. So while they're finding their specimens, I'm going to talk about some other fun animals, again, that fit into this category. So first are these guys. They are prairie voles, and their scientific name is Microtus ocrogaster, which where Microtus means small ear and ocrogaster means yellow belly. So prairie voles are the one animal species that are generally monogamous. They form these lifelong pair bonds, and they will live together, and they show high levels of affiliate behavior between their partners, and they share pup raising duties. So this is not unlike humans and how we kind of interact. This means that they have become this sort of notable animal for studying monogamous behavior and social bonding. So in one study, researchers actually paired off males and females, proceeded to get them drunk, because interestingly, prairie voles prefer alcohol to water, and they will often encourage their partner to drink as well, also not unlike humans. The researchers then tested whether voles would spend time with their partners, or if they would spend more time with a stranger vole if they were drunk or not drunk. So the results will not be surprising to anyone who has been at a bar on a Saturday night, but the male voles who were given water always preferred their partner, but the ones who had been given alcohol wanted to spend time with stranger voles. And then for females, as it was actually the opposite. Consuming alcohol actually strengthened their desire to spend time with their partners, compared to the ones that were only given water, which is pretty interesting stuff. Our second animal that we all know and love is the clownfish. So all clownfish are actually born exclusively male, although all of these guys contain both male and female reproductive organs, making them hermaphrodites. So they live in these really large communities where there's actually only one alpha female who is the largest clownfish of the group. And only the breeding male, which is the second largest fish of the group and the most aggressive male of the group, gets to mate with her. When she dies, the breeding male will then turn into a female and sort of get that top spot as the only female of the group. So essentially, kudos to Marlin, right? Because he technically should have been a female throughout that whole movie. So in my opinion, those are some pretty cool reproductive strategies. And so I want to turn to our competitors and see kind of what they came up with as well. So Adam, do you want to go first?
Sure. I don't know if you can see this, but I selected a land snail called Strophochelius oblongatus, or oblongus. Also known as Megalobolimus oblongus. And it's a type of land snail that is from, this one is from from Trinidad, but mostly they're from South America. But it's a type of land snail. And if you know about land snails are hermaphrodites. They have male and female parts. And so most of the time, these snails dig underground, live in the under leaves and burrow into loose soil and spend most of their time there. And then they come out at nighttime to wander around and eat, but also to find a mate. Well, the problem is they only come out to mate when it's raining. So that's kind of a downer to begin with. But they have to find a mate, and how they do that is kind of questionable, but they think it's, they release a chemical scent and these snails will find their mate. And then when they encounter a mate, if one individual kind of identifies itself as a male and the other identifies itself as a male, they may not exchange sperm and therefore move on. So it's a question of whether they run into a compatible mate. And when they do that, they exchange sperm, and after a period of time, maybe 2-3 weeks or so, 16, 18 days, they will start laying eggs. And I got a egg here. So here's the snail, and here's the egg. So these are relatively large eggs, some cases larger than a hummingbird egg, for instance. So these eggs will be laid. They'll lay, I don't know, up to a dozen eggs at a time. Takes over several hours. 3 or 4 weeks later, they hatch, and then 3 years later, they grow to become an adult, and they can carry on their reproduction and so forth. So to me, I thought these are kind of cool land snails in terms of, first of all, their mating, but also they need to find individuals. And once they find an individual, they have to determine whether they actually want to mate with their individual.
That's been very cool indeed. I enjoyed all of that. Gary, do you want to go ahead with yours?
Sure. See if this can be seen this way. This is Peregrinomor oshimi, which is a kind of bivalve that lives commensally with shrimp. And you'll see on the specimen that is over here that there is a number of bivalves attached to it. In Peregrinamore, first of all, the name has a more in it, so that should count for something.
I love it.
Question is, how do they find their mates? Because they're living attached to these shrimp, and when the shrimp molt, do the bivalves just get cast aside? It turns out no. The females are apparently able to reattach to the shrimp once it is molted, but the males are dwarf males and they get cast aside. You actually have a pair of them, a female and a male here, but the male is probably too small to see. Now, I'm not convinced that these are identified correctly, because when you read in the literature about Peregrinamore, it says some papers say they're hermaphrodites and some say they have separate sexes. And some say the clam is elongate and some say that it's more bulbous. So it's not even clear what we have here, but it is clear that they have real trouble finding their mates.
That's really, really interesting stuff. And it's really cool to kind of see how many mating strategies there are even across related groups, right? So, all right, moving on to the next category. So this category is called Love is in the Air. So for this category, I asked our competitors to get anything that they thought reminded them of Valentine's Day. So when you think of Valentine's Day, people don't tend to think of mollusks outside of a few oysters here and there. So any Valentine's Day kind of themed specimens that they would like to share with us are fair game. And if you'll also notice, when I tell them to go, they are moving throughout their collection. So it's really cool. You guys get to kind of see inside the collections and see what they actually look like as they kind of move throughout. So if you guys want to go ahead and go get your specimens, we'll go ahead and learn some things. So our two animals for this category are, I think, pretty cute. This first one is one of my favorite insects, the orchid mantis. So there are several species of orchids or of mantids that mimic flowers, but this one resembles an orchid. So they will actually climb up to hide in the flowers of orchids. They will sit there and they'll kind of sway side to side, and they'll wait for flies to land on it. So there's actually a black spot on its abdomen that is meant to resemble a fly and bait additional flies to come to it. And then when a larger fly kind of comes, it'll go ahead and grab it and it'll eat it. So interestingly, latest research on these guys tells us that these insects look like orchids to us, but to other insects, they don't actually particularly look like an orchid at all. Essentially, they look like this giant concentrated mass of color, which is the same color as the flowers that they're interested in. So, they're like super interested in this. And so they zoom up close to them, ultimately to their doom, right? So we actually don't know why. So some of these orchid mantis have appendages that look like petals, and we don't actually know why we don't actually know why they mimic the petals themselves, but we only know that the color is important, right? So it's interesting research that it's still going on. This second animal is called the magnificent frigate bird. So they live around the southern coast of the United States, Mexico, and the Caribbean. They are the only seabird. They are the only seabird that in which the males look different from the females. So males have this sort of bright red pouch on their throat called a gular sac, and when mating time comes around, they fill it up with air to attract the females to them. And so this obviously makes them look like they have a giant sort of heart on their chest, which is a pretty on theme for Valentine's Day. So let's go ahead and turn it over to our competitors. So Gary, do you want to go first on this one?
Okay.
Do you want to go first on this one?
Sure.
Cool, go ahead.
What I have here is a cockle, and cockles, of course, are the heart shells, and so they're a symbol of love. And this one, I don't know if it shows up very well, is somewhat pink. And it was collected on Valentine's Day in New Guinea in 1956.
Oh.
Let's see if we can get the label up here. I don't know if the label will be visible. Is that readable?
Not really, but that's okay.
So, 3-in-1. Heart cockle, Valentine's Day.
Love it. What a perfect specimen for Valentine's Day. Adam, do you want to go ahead with yours?
Sure. So I selected Echinocardium cordatum, which is a type of sea urchin that's in the family Lavinidae. So, so I thought that was appropriate, but also these urchins are called the heart urchins, and so it kind of resembles a heart. It's lives around the world in temperate areas of the world and at depths of 230 or so meters in depth, but it also burrows down into the sediments or the sand. And in the burrow are other types of organisms or animals that live with it. And believe it or not, there's a little tiny bivalve in this tube here, which you probably cannot see, and certainly I can't have a hard time seeing. That's in the genus Telemaya, and basically these little bivalves attach to the spines of these sea urchins, but live their life within the burrow of the sea urchin. So yeah, so Echinocardium is a heart urchin in the family Lavinidae, but for you, Sandra, what I wanted to present to you is a bouquet of shell-generated roses or flowers for Valentine's Day. All these were made by the daughter of Marion Britz, who was an associate in the department, administrative assistant in the department for many, many years. And so here we have flowers made of shells. And here's one just for you today. Happy Valentine's.
Thank you so much. I love that so much. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is fantastic.
You're not getting away with that, Adam. When it comes to shell-based flower offerings, we yield to no one. So you're now the target of a kind of bizarre mating contest between these two institutions. The males have started displaying.
What are those flowers? Like, what are those from? What's the story behind them?
Oh, this is, well, we have this gigantic collection of shell-based tchotchkes which come to us with people's collections. So you can see some sectioned Strombus luhuanus, for example. That has a different genus name. Lots of flowers cut from bivalves there. It's all cut from shells, you see. Yeah.
That's gorgeous. That's really cool. I didn't even think you could do those kinds of things with shells.
Oh, you have no idea.
I look forward to it. All right, so this next category, and last but not least, our last category is island getaways. So I'm sure we all like to be spending Valentine's Day with our significant other sort of far away on vacation on a beach or a tropical island. So for this category, I told our contestants to go find specimens that are only found on Pacific Islands. So Pacific Islands are any islands found in the Pacific Ocean. And so some of those examples include Hawaii, Fiji, Tahiti, and Bora Bora. So they have, you know, they're these islands that are absolutely gorgeous, but they are very, very remote. And so any kind of animals that are found on these islands tend to be pretty rare. So I want you guys go ahead and find your specimens, and we'll talk about some island endemics in the meantime. So I think I also chose some pretty interesting ones for this category. So first up comes from Fiji. So this is the Fijian monkey-faced bat. So this bat is extremely rare because they are only found on one forest and one island in Fiji. So in fact, only 6 individuals of this species has ever been observed. And so they're labeled as critically endangered due to sort of they're labeled critically endangered due to habitat loss and climate change, and there's only estimated right to be about 1,000 individuals left. So it is considered a megabat, and it can be distinguished between other species due to its bright orange eyes. The second species that I've chosen is the Rarotonga monarch. So it is in fact not a butterfly, but is a bird, and it is only found on Rarotonga, which is an island located in the Cook Islands. So they are particularly interesting because these birds are the only bird that change the colors of their feathers according to how old they are. So most birds change colors as they change from babies to adults, but these ones change as they are adults as well. So for example, all yearlings are orange and they have these dark bills. So that's the first year. All yearlings are orange. They have a yellow base and a dark bill. The second year are orange with all dark bills. The third year kind of gets to be this variable mixed color, so ranging from some females that are blotchy gray and orange, and then once they are 4 years or older, they are entirely gray. So like these birds were actually considered to be separate species for a while, but eventually it was found that they are in fact the same species, just different at different ages, right? Which is pretty cool. So this bird is also considered threatened. They only have about 500 birds left, and their habitat is being destroyed along with climate change being a significant issue, and their eggs and the adults are being eaten by invasive rats and cats. So let's go ahead and hand it over to Adam to see what Pacific Island endemic he has found in their collection.
So it wouldn't be a mollusk discussion if we didn't include the Amastridae, and this is a family of land snails that are endemic to Hawaii, but unfortunately most have gone extinct. And this is one of them, Limonella venusta, that was thought to be extinct from Hawaii. This is a specimen in our collection that was collected in or a group of specimens in our collection that were collected in 1906 by David Thanem, who was a prolific collector and researcher on Hawaiian land snails. But I chose this one. It's thought to be only known from Hawaii, specifically Molokai, and for a long time it was thought to be extinct. Well, fortunately, just within 2 years ago, some people who you may know in Hawaii published a paper where they rediscovered living populations of this particular species. And so for me, it's a bit of a love story. We've gone extinct and now we find them living. So that's the animal I chose, Limonella venusta.
Were you showing a specimen? Because I don't think I can see it. Oh, there it is. Okay, I might have missed it.
Yeah, it's
you have a lot of them.
They're little tiny guys, but they're in a vial.
Love it. That's great. So Gary, did you want to show or share your screen for this?
Well, I'll start just by holding some up and then I'll share my screen.
Sounds good.
Also a Hawaiian land snail, Endodonta marsupialis, presumably extinct, but I don't know for sure. And it's interesting because it lays the eggs in the umbilicus. And so the adults, after they mate, somehow lay the eggs in the umbilicus. It's not clear if it's in their own umbilicus or the umbilicus of their partner. And if I can share my screen, I will show you the picture.
Yep, give me a second.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
you should be able to go.
letting me? No, it still says disabled.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Try again.
Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go into our online database, and this is open access, so anybody can find it. So if I search for Endodonta and marsupialis, it shows what specimens we have of the species. And here we go. This is the pictures of the ones I had in hand. And so you'll see that it's nice in the aperture, and it's got this deep umbilicus, which actually gets slightly walled over. And in some other related species, the umbilicus will actually almost close in, and you can sometimes find the babies trapped inside, but they must be able to escape. So I don't know if they chew their way out or they wait till the adult dies or exactly what happens, but it's clearly a very strange system with this marsupial kind of breeding.
Interesting.
Okay.
And they're only endemic to Hawaii, you said?
To Oahu.
Oahu, interesting. That's very cool. All right, so will you go ahead and unshare your screen so I can go ahead and put the slideshow back?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Right, so those were our three categories. So now we have go ahead and have to declare a winner. There are some people kind of also here as well, so I want to get and I want to get some of their opinions, and I also want to see like what you guys have particularly learned in the last 20 minutes. If there was anything, if you haven't learned anything, please feel free to tell me I need to do better.
Hey, you got any trash?
Nope.
How you been?
Well, Chandra, we learned you were easily swayed by trinkets. That's what I learned for sure. That was the big takeaway for me.
My flappers.
I even have a bouquet, so if you can see that, a little bouquet on.
Either my monitor color's off or Chandra's turning pretty red.
I feel so loved. What a great Valentine's Day.
Yeah, this is hard. I don't think I can choose. I'm just going to be diplomatic about it because both definitely had good examples and good stories for the question. So I have to abstain. John, Ken.
Nori, if I give you one of these, will be that help?
Oh. Are you bribing the judge?
You can't do it with flowers with Nori or trinkets. It's got to be booze or food.
All right, very good. So I'll go ahead and leave this up to the viewers in the comments. So if anybody in the comments wants to go ahead and to let us know who they think won, that would be great.
It would be deeply disingenuous to point out that one of the two contestants actually graduated from Harvard and came to the academy.
That's very true. All right. Well, I just also wanted to thank everybody for kind of showing up to this. I have to thank Adam and Gary and Paul, and I also wanted to go ahead and throw their emails up on the screen in case anybody had any questions that they needed answers, or if they were just interested in anything else as well. But that is it for our collections battle today. Don't forget to let me know who you think won. And I will. So Gary is also posting a link in the chat, which I will go ahead and throw in the description as well. Thanks everyone for joining, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. That was fun.